Yes, guys, as we head into fantasy football week 9, the time to make trades is dwindling. The trade deadlines are approaching. I've heard in a couple of leagues they are next week for some of you, so that's crazy. Okay, that's a whole other conversation. But every move you make now, every trade for, every trade away, the impact is magnified. So let's begin here with the trade for targets, and we're also going to get into some potential tradeaways later in the episode, in the back half of the episode. Normally, I come at you guys with like 30 names, right? Total. We definitely narrowed the field a bit today because these moves are more important now. We have so much data, okay? And we'll start with the trade force. The first player I want to trade for is DeAndre Swift. Season low, 49% snaps last week, okay? Limited in practice the week before, 54% of snaps the week before, 2 straight weeks of a season low at the time in snaps. We look at Kyle Monangai, 2 straight weeks here of season highs in snaps. In week 7, 45. In week 8, 46. In week 7, he had 16 opportunities. 7 opportunities versus Baltimore. Was not nearly, as productive as week 7. Nothing wrong with Kyle Monangai, but what's happening here in this Ben Johnson offense is his best impression of what he did in Detroit with Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, except it's just a bit of a step down. If you are the believer, right, you're the type of fantasy player who does not like Jahmyr Gibbs for your fantasy team, right, because of David Montgomery, then I will just say that DeAndre Swift is not the player for you. But if you can sit back and watch your RB2 on your fantasy team, occasionally lose some touches here or there, maybe even a touchdown, right? Then DeAndre Swift in the RB2 position might be the player for you. Again, I have him ranked for Cincinnati. This is the best matchup in all of fantasy football at Cincinnati in week 9. We look at the expected fantasy points here. Okay. Last week in week 8, according to RotoViz, where does DeAndre Swift come in? Achane was first, Javonte was second, Breece, Kimani, Rachaad White, Derrick Henry, J.K. Dobbins, Saquon Barkley, and yes, DeAndre Swift. So within the top 10 RBs and expected points, what that means is RotoViz, people way smarter than me, okay, the best in the business for this type of stuff, these advanced metrics, they put together the utilization, the types of runs, okay, all of the data, and they say, this is how many fantasy points this player should have scored. Now, a guy like Breece Hall, for example, right, you'll see 14 points over expected. So sometimes that can say like, he really overperformed. And when you watch the game, you're like, wow, the Bengals can't tackle. Oh my God, he ran through multiple guys not trying to tackle him. Things like that, right? Okay. Anyway, back to Swift. Before this week, the offense had scored 20 straight points. I'm pretty sure it was in every single game since week 3. They were 4-2. They're now 4-3. A bit of a stumble. It's a perfect get-right spot here versus the Bengals. Then you get the Giants. Then you get the Vikings. I mean, these 3 defenses have been getting ran through lately. Ran through. Pittsburgh in week 12. Philly, Green Bay, stretch is a little tough, and it does get tough here in the fantasy playoffs. But if you're a guy, 4-4 or 3-5, maybe even 5-3, you're chasing that bye, you can grab Swift for RB2 price, buy him high, and he's already had his bye. I think he will pay off for you. Okay. Again, top 10 in expected fantasy points last week. And if we kind of change the scaling here on RotoViz, let's say week 6, still top 10 easily. Okay, top 10. And he's been producing as such. That's enough on Swift. And for the record, I do like Monangai as well as a trade target. Okay, we'll move along now to Rico Dowdle. Now, we have heard, okay, that Dave Canales has come out and said Rico Dowdle will be getting more work. Awesome. That's nice, considering in week 5 and 6, he combined for 400 plus scrimmage yards. That's great to hear. All right, so let's actually go look at weeks 5 through 6 on Fantasy Pros. This is the total scoring here, and we go to half PPR. The average, he averaged 31.4 half PPR points here in weeks 5 and 6. Let's just say, he's half as productive. Okay, 16 points per game, and he's a top 12 running back. So I think that Rico Dowdle, after 2 weeks of lackluster fantasy output, not everyone in the world knows that Dave Canales is leaning towards Rico Dowdle now. So if you're able to go scoop him for a flex price, You throw a flex wide receiver, a couple of them for Rico Dowdle. I think he's going to give you RB2 value the remainder of the season. Still has the bye, but some decent matchups here. Green Bay, I mean, that's not great, but honestly, they're not the best run defense. They're not the best defense in the world. Honestly, they're not. You get New Orleans, that's easy. Atlanta is hit or miss. San Fran has proven to be pretty easy. The Rams are tough, but then in the playoffs, New Orleans again, Tampa Bay is tough, and then Seattle is kind of hit or miss. So a pretty mid schedule. Not trying to sell you on the schedule. If we look at the Fantasy Pros rest of season schedule here for running backs, where does he come in? Okay, he comes in bottom 3. So maybe I was a little wrong there, but there are some good matchups there, like that New Orleans game, the San Fran. There's a couple in there that I really like. And honestly, the way Bryce Young's playing, what they saw from Andy Dalton, I don't see too much happening. I don't see too much happening through the air, and we will talk about Tetairoa McMillan later in the show. Moving right along here to the next running back I do have is Chase Brown. And there's also one other player that I wanted to mention, but we will start first with Chase Brown. I have Chase Brown as a running back 2 rest of season, well inside the top 24, based on what I've seen just the last 2 weeks, once Flacco really has started getting cooking with this offense. So looking at Chase Brown, doing our little point analysis here, total points in the last 2 weeks, let's just say running backs who have played the last 2 weeks, comes in at RB7. A lot of people don't realize that. A lot of people are hearing all sorts of things about Samaje Perine. A lot of people are watching Samaje Perine get in the end zone, okay? In week 8 against the Jets for 100 scrimmage yards. Only had 10 opportunities. 42% of snaps, sure. He has floated around 40% of snaps all season. Chase Brown, around 60. Had 53%. Technically a season low. In week 6, he had 54. In week 3, he had 55. So it's not this unheard of thing where Chase Brown is, not getting 80% of snaps. I know we're used to that from last year. And if Burrow was running the offense and they weren't trying to experiment, maybe he'd be doing that. But, 60% of snaps in this Joe Flacco offense that apparently can just go score 30 whenever is a very valuable role. Very, very valuable role. 2 touchdowns for Chase Brown. Ignore the Perine stuff, in my opinion. If you have Chase Brown, go ahead and roster Perine. He's a great handcuff for your RB2. But I think you can buy Chase Brown for, some flex prices, maybe even some low-end RB2 prices, and you'll be on your way with a good RB2. Now, Ashton Jeanty, I actually accidentally deleted him before. But yes, we will discuss Ashton Jeanty real quick. So, taking a look at the game log, this Kansas City game here, again, let me just get all the games here. Weeks 1 through 8, average points. Okay. This Kansas City game here, I think the offense had like 30 or 40 total plays. Just was not a lot of volume here for Jeanty to get cooking. And as a result, he did not get cooking. They lost the game like 33-0. Basically, all the starters on both teams were benched heading into the 4th, right? It is the vibes here. Looking at the 3 games before that, though, I'm seeing in week 4, 23 opportunities. I'm seeing 21 opportunities. I'm seeing 27 opportunities. Yeah. And a guy like Ashton Jeanty, who is arguably the best running back prospect of all time, arguably the best college running back of all time next to Barry Sanders, right? Maybe we can give the guy 7 weeks in the NFL, let him have his bye week, and come out of the bye week versus Jacksonville. Tough matchup. Then you get Denver. Could be better. Dallas, though, in week 11 is going to be a great game. And honestly, the schedule is kind of tough, but that Dallas matchup, and a lot of times, guys, you see volume. The one way to overcome a schedule is volume. If Jeanty gets 30 touches, there's 30 opportunities, 20 plus opportunities, 25 opportunities, whatever, in those games, he really can just come out and just do his thing. They'll get Bowers back. The offense will be more efficient. All of these games are without Bowers. So I think once they get Bowers back, they sort out the Jacoby Myers stuff. Maybe Geno Smith gets a little better, an ounce better. We give Jeanty 2 months in the NFL. I think that he's going to come out and be this top 6, top 7 running back. And, looking at the average points, he's all the way down here at running back 17. I really anticipate him to finish higher than that. Some running backs that I'd prefer, or I'd like to give away for Jeanty, right? Or let's say that better. He's going to finish above these running backs at the end of the season, in my opinion. Quinshon Judkins, I'd prefer Jeanty. Omarion Hampton, I'd prefer Jeanty. Obviously, Scadaboo, sigh. DeAndre Swift, I'd prefer Jeanty. So there's an example with Swift who you can be a buy and a sell. Bucky Irving, I'd prefer Jeanty, honestly, after the injuries. I really would. yeah, that's kind of it of the guys ahead of him. So some names there. Maybe you agree with some, maybe you don't. All right. Moving on to the next running back is Kimani Vidal. And this is a trade target for teams who really need wins right now. Harbaugh came out today, quoted as saying that Vidal is playing like a running back one, like a true workhorse RB in the NFL. That's awesome. So 25 opportunities in week 8. He was absolutely unstoppable. Over 5 a carry. He's hit that mark in 2 of the last 3 games. There's a lot to like here. The offense is very good. The next 2 matchups are very good, Tennessee and Pittsburgh. Okay, and through the bye week, right, weeks 9, 10, and 11, doesn't look like Omarion Hampton's coming back. So you're getting 3 weeks, maybe more, after the bye out of Vidal. And he's just simply going to be a high-end RB2. So if you need wins now, if you are literally 2 and 6, 3 and 5, I think he's a great trade target to go get. We look at the total points here since week 6 when he kind of took over. Again, 2/3 of snap. Like, see these numbers, 67%, 64%. Chase Brown can hit those numbers. Vidal comes out 74% and really unlocks that monster ceiling, right? But it was my point. Like, you don't necessarily need 80% of snaps. Those days are over for fantasy football and workhorse running backs, unless, you're Jonathan Taylor, whatever. But for Kimani Vidal, ranks as RB9 since week 6, since he's kind of been named the starter, took over the backfield. And who would I trade, right? Who would I trade like 1 for 1? Just be like, hey, you're a winning team. I'm a losing team. Give me Kimani Vidal. Where you can kind of sell the rest of season, right? I think you can talk about like RJ Harvey. I think you can talk about Jaylen Warren and then get Vidal plus, right? So your rest of season outcome isn't too messed up. Ideally, you want to send guys who have not had their bye, right? Because you don't want to send a guy who's had his bye for Vidal who has not had his bye, and then Omarion comes back, right? So maybe not Warren, to be honest. Rashad White's a great example. If someone will do that, maybe the Bucky owner would like to have White. Maybe he has Vidal. It's kind of hard to come up with these examples, but maybe J.K. Dobbins and you get Vidal back plus, right? Woody Marks is a guy who has had his bye who I would send for Vidal. So those are some names to maybe think about for getting Vidal. Okay. We get into the wide receivers, and some of these are going to be very quick and easy. The first one is very quick and easy. It is Emeka Egbuka. And we look at weeks 6 through 8, and I don't even know where he is. Let me look. Try to find him. Hold on. He is all the way down at wide receiver 53. The last 3 weeks, I understand there's injury. I understand whatever, but yeah, 3 games and then into the bye. Like, that's a buying window. If you have Egbuka, right, and you're a losing team somehow, or you're a 500 team, you're going to look at those 3 games. You're going to say, yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe I will trade you Vlad McConkey for Egbuka. Maybe I will trade you Egbuka for Olave or Pittman or, I don't know, down the list, Keenan Allen. Maybe, right? Maybe those deals can start to happen because 3 games is a set of data officially. You need 3 games, 3 data points to be considered a set of data. And I'm looking at wide receiver 55 since week 6. So it's like, there's a window. All I'm saying is there's a window. Half the comments will be, no way in hell the owner's giving Egbuka, blah, blah, whatever. Sounds good. I expect him to be top 10 rest of season. Okay. T. Higgins for Egbuka. Things like this is what we got to be discussing. Devonta Smith plus for Egbuka. Okay. All right. Getting into another wide receiver, it is Rome Odunze. Bounced back very nicely here in week 8 against Baltimore. Super easy matchup. And, I just have him as a high-end wide receiver too. Kind of reminds me of like Nico Collins, like in that tier where I believe in the offense. Even in a bad game for the offense, we see Rome Odunze just dominating on 10 targets, 7 catches, 114 yards, 18.4 fantasy points, his 3rd best game of the season. So it's nice to see, right? After 5 weeks in a row, not as good as this, after that 32-point monster performance on 11 targets, that he still has it in, and he still has these wide receiver 1 weeks in him. So that's great. And I'm down, right? I'm down to go trade for him. He's already had his bye. I'm down to buy the Caleb Rome stack on the low in Superflex. Get Rome as the wide receiver 2. These are moves I really like to be making. Would I trade George Pickens for Rome Odunze? Straight. Depends on record. Depends, on roster construction. Yes, I prefer Rome Odunze. Would I trade Michael Pittman for Rome? Yes, I prefer Rome. Keenan Allen? Yes, I prefer Rome. Chris Olave? Yes. Devontae Smith? Yes. Jalen Waddle? Yes. Sutton? Yes. Metcalf? Yes. Jefferson? No. So there's a line, all right? And I'm just going down the list of scoring wide receivers. And I think Rome really is, inside that top 12. And I'm above consensus on him. I value this. I value that the bye week has already happened. And looking at the schedule, again, pretty good. Cincinnati, easy. Giants, easy. Minnesota, their corners are actually pretty good, but just got torched by the Chargers. We'll see. Pittsburgh, easy. Philly, hit or miss. Green Bay, easy. Cleveland, kind of hard. Green Bay, again, easy. And San Fran, easy. So the schedule's good. Ben Johnson, offense, wide receiver 1. I imagine Caleb only gets better. It's going to be a roller coaster, but over time, he's only going to get better. I would buy Rome right now. We talked about Nico, and I have him on the list of buys because I look at this utilization, and it really reminds me of Rome, who, of course, I just X'd out of his game log, but you have some games with like 6 targets, then you have some with 10 or 11 or 9. This Texans offense is trending upwards. It really is. They went into they played San Fran at home and cooked them. Very surprising result, honestly. And they're favored here again, as of this recording, Tuesday evening, against Denver. They are favorites at home, -1.5 points off the top of my head. So Vegas and the sports books or whoever, the NFL, they know something about the Texans that we don't. I think we're going to see a run here from Nico, who, by the way, no Pat Surtain for Denver in week 9. Sweet. Jacksonville's tough in week 10. They have just overall good defense. Tennessee, Buffalo, Indianapolis, that 3-game stretch, he might single-handedly get you to the playoffs. And for that matter, CJ Stroud in Superflex is a nice QB2 target, who we're not going to talk about today, but while I'm on the topic, he is, with all these weapons. The Texans have Marks and Chubb, who are not great, but productive on the ground. Higgins, Knoll, Kirk, you have weapons there. Apparently Hutchinson, right? There's a bunch of targets. It's not just a Nico funnel anymore, which we shall see, but I imagine it helps him out. The last game he played, 10 targets, only caught 4. He's only caught 4 passes in 3 straight games he's played. He caught 8 in week 3. Then the 2 weeks before that, he caught 3. Like, he just is not hitting that ceiling yet. And he's still dropping a game here with 14.2 points on 3 catches, 12 points on 4 catches, no touchdown, 16 points on 4 catches with the touchdown. So this is the floor. This is the floor. If we go to average points, let's see here. Where does he end up? Nico. The floor is wide receiver 29. So anytime you have a player who, when they're kind of performing at their worst, is still a flex, it's a good sign that they're not going to absolutely crush your week if they don't perform well. Looking at RotoViz, I'm just curious to see now. RotoViz, if you're watching, I would love a fantasy points over expected per game. That'd be valuable to me. But yeah, so we look at fantasy points over expected. We'll see where Nico is. I imagine he's negative. Yeah, negative 0.23. So nothing crazy. So RotoViz is kind of disagreeing with me, saying that, based on his utilization and what they're seeing, the type of routes that he's actually kind of performing on par with what he should be doing. I don't agree. I just don't agree. I mean, you're not going to tell me, right, that if he's catching one of these 6 targets he doesn't catch here against Tampa Bay, that he's not going to be crushing it a little more than 14.2 points on 3 catches. Anyway, we're going down a rabbit hole now. I think Nico, top 15, if not top 12, still have him ranked there right next to Rome. Nice target, had the bye. We get into the tight ends, and this is the week. Now, I'm going to ask you for 2 weeks. Week 9 and week 10. Just give me 2 weeks. If Bowers is not producing, man. So don't come back next week and say, yo, Bowers, what's good? Because since this point right here, since week 5, it's a full month I've been telling you to buy him. And I will tell you again, if he's not producing, right, when week 10 finishes up and it's no bueno, I will admit. But until then, until I see him fully healthy, because I've seen it one game. I've seen one game of fully healthy, 15.3 points. Tight end 1 or 2 on the week. Until I see it again, I don't want to see any comments. Okay? Who would I trade for Bowers? Every single tight end not named Trey McBride. Every single one. Honestly. And you could probably get wide receiver 2s, RB2s plus McBride. Plus Bowers for McBride. And then we're talking sure. Yeah, and that makes a lot of you upset. And I understand that. Bowers. That's all I'm going to say. Okay, that's all I'm going to say. I'm just going to let the results talk, hopefully in my favor. He's the only tight end trade for today. We have Bo Nix for QBs. And here we go with Bo Nix. I mean, hitting his stride. This is what we were talking about all preseason. We were so excited for Bo Nix all preseason. All right, looking at, let's just see. Let's go the last the last month, maybe, since week 5. In expected points, there he is. Second best QB. Okay, let's go to week 4. There he is. He is the best QB in expected fantasy points. Okay, the best since week 4. What if we make it week 3? He is top 3. So do you see what I'm saying? He's not valued there. Bo Nix is not valued as a top 3, top 4, top 5, top 6 QB. Maybe top 10, maybe top 8 if you're like me. But most people just think he's a low-end QB1. I actually think that he, on a weekly basis, can go contend with Mahomes, Herbert, Allen, Daniels, Hurts, these players, Drake May. I think he can go contend with them. So if you're looking at your QB and you're like, man, it's not that good, whatever, try to go buy Bo Nix because I feel like you line him up against anybody and you got a chance. That's kind of your ticket into that elite tier. Would not surprise me if he finishes sleeper as a top 3 QB finish. We will begin with our sells. Now, again, I say this every week. A quick note on the sells. Every single player, we talked about Swift before, right? How in some cases I'm buying him, some cases I'm selling him. Every single player is either a buy or a sell. Javonte Williams, I have him in my own league. He has been an absolute joy to roster. In my one league that I'm discussing, I'm 3-5 right now. I love my team. I'm 3-5. So when I see Javonte's buy coming, in week 10, I'm looking at a great matchup right now, looking at 2 touchdowns last week. I'm looking to cash in, right? I'm looking to cash in for high tier players. Okay? So what do I mean by that? Who would I, in any deal, not one for one, but who would I look to send Javonte for? Any of these elite receivers, okay? Especially in PPR. Rice, JSN, St. Brown, maybe Adams, 1 for 1, who had his bye. Rome, 1 for 1. Egbuka, if I am a winning team and I can convince a losing team to take Jav, right? These are the type of players I'm willing to let Jav go for. We look at running backs, obviously any of the elites, but Achane is interesting to me. James Cook, who had his bye. Maybe that's a move you make. Okay? Maybe Kyron. Maybe you get Kyron plus for Jav, who had his bye. Things like this. We look at the expected points for Rotoviz. Again, just really outlining the utilization. And week 8, he had the second most expected points, 19.3. Only Achane had more. So if you can't go get one of those elite players, don't sell them low. If someone wants to come buy Jav, they can pay top 6 RB price for him because he is RB4 right now in total points. So they can show respect. They can walk in, buy the workhorse RB on the best offense in the league. They can come do that. If they don't want to do that, no problem. Okay. Now, this guy I'm a little more concerned about. So I actually think Jacobs is genuinely a sell. He's had his bye. If you can buy him as an RB2 for your squad, awesome. But if he's your RB1, I'm a little nervous. And I say this respectfully. I'm not trying to scare anyone, but I'm just a little bit nervous. All right. There are phases of the game when we're watching. It's been this way for 2 weeks now. We see 55% of snaps in week 7. We see 53% in week 8. So there are moments of time where the other running backs are rotating in, whether it's Emmanuel Wilson, Chris Brooks, whoever it is. And we're hearing that it's because there's this undisclosed kind of he's injured. I forget what the injury is exactly. It doesn't really matter. Honestly, it really does not really matter what the injury is, but there is some sort of injury that he's not fully healed from yet. Totally fine. We don't know about it though, dude. I'm looking at Jacobs off the injury report heading into the game. He's active, okay? And then I'm watching Emmanuel Wilson get the rock a bunch. So what's the injury? When is that going to change? Are they going to announce are they going to announce when he's going to be kind of rested? I doubt it. Why would they do that? But yeah, okay, hold on. Nick Eamon War is on my screen, so excuse me. But I'm looking at Emmanuel Wilson, 42% of snaps, 15 opportunities. He had 4 targets. Jacobs had 3 and only 2 more rush attempts. I'm looking at Chris Brooks. Okay, I lied. Chris Brooks gets no work. So this player on my screen I've been seeing is Emmanuel Wilson. Great. Notice how it doesn't matter. It's not Jacobs. It's literally not Josh Jacobs. It could be you, my fellow viewer, getting the rock. If it's not Jacobs, I'm a little concerned because, and again, if they were like, here's the report, like Jacobs going to be getting some limited snaps, here's the deal, here's the injury, but there's no bye week in sight. They already had the bye week. He's 27 years old. That's approaching the cliff. You get to 28. It's like, okay, you're not in your prime anymore. Jacobs has an injury history. We look at the games played. He played 17 last year. Awesome. The year before, 13. 17 the year before that, great, but then 15, 13. So he has a history of missing some games. Cool. So yeah, I'm a little nervous. And I look at where he ranks among RBs in average points. He's right up here. Where is he? We're RB5. So I'll just name more than 5 RBs I'd prefer over Jacobs rest of season, including the obvious ones. These are players you can try to flip Jacobs for. JT, McCaffrey, Bajan, Gibbs. There's 4. Achane. James Cook. Probably Javonte, if I can get Javonte plus. Derrick Henry. Ashton Jeanty plus. So you see my point. There's a handful of running backs where, okay, maybe I just avoid the risk of Jacobs right now. And again, if you don't, you're fine, because at the end of the day, he's RB5 and your life continues. And honestly, there's no alarm bells going off from the organization, from injury experts, things like that. Just a little concerned, okay? With season low in snaps, 2 games in a row. Season low in carries, 2 games in a row. And he's getting by with these touchdowns. They sub him in at the goal line, whatever. He gets the tutties. No touchdown in this game. You're looking at 7.5 points. No 2 touchdowns the week before. You're looking at 6.8 points. So just think about that. I just want to look here, maybe the last 2 weeks at the expected points, see what Rotoviz has to say. Again, I'm not trying to craft this narrative. Like, if the data tells me, you guys have heard it a couple times this episode, data tells me that I'm wrong and I'm crazy, word. But here we are. Yeah, looks like I'm kind of right. So 22.6 over expected for Jacobs. In terms of expected points, he's still high, right? Still a top 10 running back, 41.7 expected points in the last 3 games, but 22.6 over expected. It means you're really relying on things that aren't sticky, for example, touchdowns. 22.6 points, that's about 7 points per game in the last 3 weeks that were supposedly, a little sus. Now let's do week 7, so we'll do the last 2 weeks, which is probably a better indicator when we've really started to see him kind of take some time off. Expected points, you'll notice, right? Outside the top 12, 8 points over expected, and still pretty high. Yeah. We're looking in Samaje Perine range. Obviously, McCaffrey's still here, but has scored a lot of touchdowns lately. It's not always a bad thing. It's just something that maybe we should be considering. Okay, we're looking at Breece Hall running through toddlers on the Bengals, right? So yeah. But then you see Jonathan Taylor, who's just absolutely dominant, and that's because, he is absolutely dominant. So take these stats with a grain of salt. As always, guys, no expert fantasy football. It's probably not that deep, right? And we'll move on to Saquon Barkley. And I think we have a nice little opportunity here to get off the Saquon Barkley train. Yeah, I said what I had to say. Now, he's on the bye. He left the game with a groin injury. Apparently, he could return. Who knows? All I know is he's not playing this week for my fantasy team. He gets Green Bay, Detroit in his face out of the bye. Then you got Dallas, Chicago, Chargers, nice. Vegas, nice. So heading into the playoffs, a really nice schedule. I worry about the injury. 28 years old. You guys know the history of PPR running back ones. Just any running back one overall, right? The following year, like only 1 or 2 out of the last 15 has finished top 12 at the position. He ranks RB9 right now without the bye. We look at the total points among RBs. Where does he rank? Weeks 1 through 8. He is RB9, as I said. And that's total points, all right? That is total points. So really, if we do average, Saquon is going to be a little farther down. Where is he? He's 11. Does he finish top 12? Right now, it would suggest yeah. I just don't know. I don't like that he's injured. I don't like that he's injured. I don't like that the wide receivers complain about not getting the ball. I don't like that Dallas Goedert scores 2 touchdowns every game. I don't know. Like, it's definitely not top 6 running back Barkley. I think he's a running back 1 for sure. I'd prefer Gibbs, JT, McCaffrey, Bijan, Cook. Jacobs is a guy I'd actually prefer over Barkley. So there's the example of how he can be a buy and a sell. I'd prefer Javonte. Henry, Jeanty, Brees plus, things like that. So think it might be a great time to move off Barkley because, the 33.5 points is awesome, but don't forget the 8.7, 5.2 in week 6 and 7. Just don't forget it in 2 good matchups is all I'm saying. Let's start to rapid fire these a little bit. Into the wide receivers, we have George Pickens, who right now ranks as wide receiver 3 in total points. We make it average 15.8, which is 15.8 points, wide receiver 6 on average. I don't think he's going to finish a top 6 receiver. I'm sorry. I said it. I just don't think he is. There are probably 8 or 9 receivers I'd rather have over him. And that's really it. Everyone's worried about Lamb. Everyone's worried about Pickens and Lamb. I would just go get Lamb. I would literally just go buy Lamb. He's a top 3 receiver. He's not playing as it right now. He's not valued as it right now, but he is. If you're a winning team, you can afford to eat Lamb's buy. Go buy CeeDee Lamb. All right. Michael Pittman. We'll move on. Some of these touchdowns I'm seeing. Now, admittedly, 9+ targets in 2 games. That's great. Week 6, 3 targets. Week 5, 6 targets. 10 in week 4. It's like giving me the Devonta Smith vibes, right? It's what it's giving me. You have Josh Downs back. You have Tyler Warren breaking out. You have Jonathan Taylor. You have Daniel Jones, who might run a few in the end zone himself. There's just a lot happening here in the Colts offense. And again, Pittman, wide receiver 7 right now in total points. Let me find it. Okay. Yeah, there's more than 6 wide receivers I want over him. There's probably about 12. So I'm looking to trade him in. Adams, yes, I prefer to Pittman. Olave, yes. Rome, yes. Waddle, yes. Sutton plus, yes. Pickens, yes. A buy and to sell, an example of that, right? There's so many receivers that I prefer over Pittman. I'm watching him catch the ball with his bicep, with his one bicep. I mean, I'm seeing things here that just shouldn't be happening. These low probability plays that just continuously happen. I mean, a touchdown in every single game but 2. So just be careful with Pittman. If you're viewing him as a wide receiver 1, I think you're overvaluing. If he's your wide receiver 2, maybe you move on from him for a true wide receiver 1 to put in your wide receiver 2. Or maybe he just keeps getting 9 targets, scoring the ball. Daniel Jones is John Elway, right? I don't know. But yeah, just something to consider. Now, McMillan, prime example of a buy and to sell. Right now, wide receiver 22, actually 20 in half PPR according to Fantasy Pros, just over 10 points per game. Yeah, I just don't know if we're going to get the top 8 ceiling. I think this is a player who, there's no bye week till week 14. We love the bye weeks for rookies. The week 14 bye week is a problem for him. The schedule is interesting. Green Bay, they'll probably be down. Fine, you might see 9 targets. New Orleans, easy. Atlanta's hard. San Fran, pretty easy. Rams are hard. Then the bye week. And the playoffs actually are really nice. New Orleans, Tampa Bay, Seattle. So if you're a winning player, if you're making playoffs, you're going for a bye. I'm trying to buy McMillan. Say to the losing team, yo, I'll eat his bye. All good. You're getting the rookie bye bump out of week 14. And you got 3 great matchups in playoffs. That's something I'm interested in, to be honest with you. But if you need wins now, if you might need wins now, I'm looking to move off of him. I think he's valued top 16, top 18. I actually have him there in my own rest of season rankings, but on my team, I'm yeah, you're not going to score 25 for me. You're not going to go score 30 points. You have a 0% chance of doing that. Maybe I'm wrong, but it's how I feel. So if you have someone in your league who maybe would send you DK plus for McMillan, maybe McConkey, maybe Garrett Wilson coming back and you can grab him, for example. Rome, for example. Olave, even with Shook coming in, they're scared of that. Adams, right? You can send maybe you get Tyron Tracy off waivers. McMillan, Tracy for Adams. Maybe, right? Would I prefer Pittman? Not really. They're kind of similar. Okay, so that's my thoughts with McMillan. I just don't know if we're going to see these monsters. I don't know if he finishes in any game this year as a top 5 wide receiver. I'm just not sure. Especially with Rico getting the rock more. For our sell candidate, we do have Oronde Gadsden. Now, I'm just getting a lot of questions about Gadsden. He is our only tight end sell, if you will, on the year. I have him tight end 7 rest of season. Off the top of my head, Bowers, McBride, Ferguson, Kittle, Kraft, and there's one more. I forget, but he's either tight end 6 or 7. And it's really just a situation of like a lot of people have Kittle and Gadsden. A lot of people have Gadsden and Ferguson, Gadsden and Kraft. Those type of names, it's like, yo, tell the league, come get one of my top 6 tight ends. Come get one of my elite tight ends. And whoever gives you more for whatever player, you sell that player. So someone walks into your trade office and is like, yo, Lad McConkey for Gadsden. And then you're like, oh, I want to send Kittle. They're like, can't do it. Can only give you Kayshon Boutte. Obviously, you're giving Gadsden, right? So let the buyer make the decision for you. If they don't want to buy Gadsden, great. Enjoy your average of 20 fantasy points the last 3 weeks in the tight end position. Literally just enjoy it. It's not that deep. So that's my advice there on Oronde Gadsden. I'm getting a lot of questions on him. And finally, the final trade away candidate. Yeah, I mean, hey, we've been here for 2 months now, but I will say it again. In week 5, I was pretty convinced here after 12 points in week 4 and then 16 in week 5 that it was over for Daniel Jones. I was not exactly correct, and that's okay. But still, if people are really buying Daniel Jones as his top 5, top 6 QB, he ranks QB 6 right now, I'd move on from him. I would actually buy Bo Nix. Give me Bo Nix over Daniel Jones. Obviously, Herbert may. Yeah, Herbert's an example. Herbert over Jones. I think you can make that move. Sell Jones for Herbert, sell Jones for Nix. Obviously, Mahomes, May, Josh Allen, things like that. I would prefer Dak to Jones, right? These are the moves I would be looking to make, guys. So that was almost 40 minutes. I thought I was going to keep it shorter today. Shout out my editor, Nick, for all the timestamps. I know they make the videos better for you guys. I appreciate the support. Good luck. Goodbye.